Very, very excited to welcome Alice Ann Harwood and Aaron Sherrill to join us to present on artificial intelligence. This is a hands-on interactive workshop. So they will be prompting you and guiding you. And as Alice Ann liked to say when we were planning this, we'll all be playing in the playground together. Just an opportunity for you to test out some new technology and try some new things. So I'm thrilled to introduce Alice Ann and Aaron, an amazing husband and wife team. Alice Ann does a lot of consulting and work in the nonprofit sector, and Aaron is a tech innovator, and together they've put together an incredible workshop. We're going to cover a lot of ground, so I'm excited to turn it over to them.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you to everyone who came today. This is brave, right? And we are really going to bring it down to when we talked about what do we want to do. We said, let's do an absolute beginners. Let's start from zero and grow from there. And really, our goal, our entire mission today in these 90 minutes is to help you feel comfortable exploring. This is just the beginning, but we want by the time we finish in 90 minutes you to feel really comfortable going in and exploring AI in a different way to see how it can serve you and how it can help support the work that you do every day. So I come to technology through the nonprofit sector. So that's a really fascinating way into tech. And I'm a late adopter. So I didn't get email until, I'm not going to tell you when, because well, we'll just let that go. It wasn't, I didn't have email right away. So I'm a late adopter. Aaron, however, I think I could call him a tech native. So Aaron, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we're going to dig in, and Aaron's going to do a little housekeeping too to help anyone, so that you can both listen to us and see us on the screen and have the ability to also get some hands-on work in. Yes.
Sounds good to me. So right, tech native. I fall into an interesting generation called senior millennial. I had encyclopedias as my source of knowledge until junior high school, and the internet was slow, but we had it. My dad is an architect, and he needed to send files between his home office and his office, and so we had dial-up internet early. Having the ability to get some of my creative aspirations, I got into building computers because my family was poor, and we cobbled together parts that I got secondhand from local universities, and managed to build one complete computer. And the next thing after that is like, okay, well, now it has to get fast. Like, how do I between my freshman year of high school until now, my percentage of all money that I make goes right into investing in my technological capabilities. I've downsized, but I have a bin of, it's labeled functional but unused technology, and inside of it is like a brainwave reading headset and a bunch of perceptual computing stuff. Like, it shoots infrared light at you and then builds like a 3D version of you. Things like that are over there, and it's always given me the ability to think differently about how technology works, to be able to I was having a conversation about where AI fits in this innovation curve. There's a curve to innovation. It starts out an early innovator, then early adopter, and as technology finds more and more uses, it makes its way up this innovation curve. And a lot of technologies are they don't make it out of innovation because there's not a viable market for the idea. It's so boutique that the use case for it is very, very small. And it doesn't make sense for an investment firm to spend millions of dollars in ramping up a brand in order to get enough eyes on the product in order to make it into a thing. And one thing that AI does is it kind of flattens a lot of that out, where you might have an idea like, wow, wouldn't it be great if I could just take this list and clean it up? Or wouldn't it just be great if I could, I know I have this part of it and I know it needs to be this other thing. How do I get from point A to point B? And AI is like a super duper democratic way of getting it, getting what an idea that you might have without any coding knowledge into the world. So I will ask for your forgiveness in that little rant. I've lost my track, but I will. I think that I was going to talk about splitting windows. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show y'all. It's really, I think most operating systems now, they all kind of work this way, that if you grab one of your windows, I've got Chrome open here. I have a couple of different tabs opened in Chrome. And so I'm going to grab this one for ChatGPT, and I'm just going to drag the window all the way over to the right edge. And it creates a little window that lets me show one thing over here, and then it's got thumbnails of the other things that were just open. And I think that it was this over here. And so now I have two things side by side. In OS X, I think starting in Maverick, they started doing things like this. I believe that if most people keeping their Mac updated. If this doesn't work for you, you can very painfully resize by moving your cursor to the very corner of a window. On Mac, the resize is in the lower right corner of the screen back here. And if you could get your windows to look roughly half and half, that'll be good enough for what we're doing here. Allison shared a Word document and some sample documentation, some sample documents. We're going to be using those, but for now, if you could get the logged into your ChatGPT account and have us on the other side, that'll be enough for this purpose.
All right. Anyone need a hand getting a split screen so you can do both at the same time? Just want to make sure everyone's good to go so you can play. That's our housekeeping.
We have a little time set aside, so if y'all
Can you run that by us again, how to do the split screen, please? A little more
Absolutely.
slowly for some of us who are more challenged.
Absolutely, no problem. So the window, you can kind of think as a pane inside of on your window on your computer. If you're on a PC, then you have your close button and your maximize button and your minimize button. And one way of getting it into that arrangement is to hover over the little rectangle. I'm on Windows 11. See, this is where it gets really, really complicated because there's so many different operating systems. The easiest way that I know how is to grab the top, like move your cursor to the top section of the window. My background is the same color as my browser window. So I'm sorry, technical difficulties. If you click it on the top here, let me open like a folder or something.
You can also click the Windows key and arrow left or right And that'll allow you to send one thing to one side of your screen and click on the other thing with the Windows key and arrow to the other direction, and you can have things side by side.
You make a dynamic duo.
Yes, Todd has a good recommendation too. You can use something else. You can use a different machine to look at something as well. That is an option. And while you're trying to find your screens, I want to talk a little bit about our way in. When we started talking about how do we want to explore what AI can do, we started thinking about some core functions within our sector and where we spend our time and how we spend our time, and really what becomes bottlenecks, right? Where do we get slow? Where do we slow down? Where do we find that something got in the way that we need to do that is keeping us from doing what we're meant to do with our mission? So we've narrowed that to 3 core areas. We're going to explore a little bit how AI can serve you as far as process and process functions. We're going to explore a little bit as an insight gathering. How can AI support you in gathering information with which you can make decisions? And how can it help you with communication and engagement? How does it support you in those ways? So those are the 3 areas we're going to move through today and get just some hands-on practice in each of those core areas and how we can use AI. So everybody feel good about moving on, and so we can get into some exercises? We got a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Great. Okay, so Aaron, take it away about prompts. Aaron's going to kick us off with talking about how do you make a prompt? What is a prompt? How do you make a prompt?
Yes, thank you. In order to start at the very beginning, I want to talk about the keyboard and mouse. It's a topic that I've dug into a lot, and we use it almost daily, if not constantly, and we're very familiar with the keyboard and mouse. And in the old days, computers had just a keyboard, and the keyboard cut out a hole and created a card that the computer I'm sorry, I wish Zoom would not take over. It's not letting me put things on top of it. Okay. All right, so it doesn't know that I have 2 monitors. Punch cards. So before there was a screen that you were working really interactively with, all of what happened with the computer took place behind the scenes, and in order to make any kind of calculations, scientific calculations, a lot of code breaking, things like that, a programmer would type out on a machine that would print out a card, that would type out a card like this. This is like the first keyboard. They're like finding the letters to print out. And the advent of the keyboard gave more control over how you used a screen. So early days, green and black screen, command line, and there's, this is where we start talking about the keyboard shortcuts, right? The things that you take for granted now, copy, paste. If you have to capitalize a letter, holding the shift key and pushing a button. When you're controlling the computer, you can think about a prompt the same way as what it is that using your keyboard does to your computer. So if you wanted to select text, you're clicking, and you're holding down, and as you move the cursor, you're selecting. As soon as the cursor gets past one character, it adds that character to the selection. And now if I press Control and C, then I have told the computer everything that is currently within the selection, take that and store it in a temporary place so I can use it later. And then when I click on here and I have press Control and V, it has said, retrieve everything out of that temporary storage place and paste it in whatever text field whatever is currently selected. And that level of logic is what we need to be thinking about when we're writing out our prompts. It is contextual. It is very specific, and it doesn't leave much room for ambiguity. Ambiguity is like the kryptonite of using an AI model like ChatGPT. So is that, what do you think, Alison? Is that
Yeah, so when you're building your prompt, it's the same thing. We've gone from keyboard shortcuts and mouse shortcuts to those shortcuts are a prompt. Now we as humans are able to type in a prompt in a much faster way without having to know any code to make this happen. So as you start, what we're going to do is really explore, how do you create a prompt that's going to give you information that you can actually use? And we're going to start in this process area. So the other day I was working with a client and had to do a purchase. And I realized I have no idea what their process is for executing on a purchase all the way through filing your PO, right? Just a process, a general basic process thing. And it came up and I thought, you know what? What's your policy? What is your process for a purchase order? So we're actually going to go through a prompt. And one of the things that I think is really important about AI is you can use what you already have. Use what you have available to you already. As an organization, you already have existing policies. You already have documents. You can pull from those documents. So what I did was I grabbed a policy on procurement. We actually grabbed a sample one, so I'm not using a specific organization that we know, and said, okay, let's take a look here. So we're going to actually go through some prompts. And what we want you to do is join us in these prompts, and you can customize them for your own organization. You can mimic them exactly as we are putting them in. It's up to you, and we'll talk you through that. So we're going to first go through this in the process, and then we're going to replicate this so that you can start to explore a little bit more. So Aaron, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about setting up your prompt, how important it is to set up your prompt and what that means before you start as you're training your system.
Yeah, so each new chat window, each new chat conversation has its own context. And the first thing that you type in the chat tells it starts telling the AI model, I keep saying model, but it keeps telling ChatGPT that this is the playground that you're playing in. And what works really well is to pretend like it's a character, and you're giving it its its persona, essentially. So the example that we have inside of our prompts for exercises doc, I have it here. You're an operations director for a nonprofit. You'll be asked to create a compliant step-by-step process for various organizational functions. Users will provide relevant policy for compliance. Is there anything else you need before we begin? So it has come back with a subset of things that it thinks that we should keep in mind for including in order to yield the highest result, the most likely expected outcome.
So when I started this prompt for myself in practice, I used the word policy. Give me a policy for procurement. Give me a purchase order policy. And it came back and spit out a policy. And I went, oh, that's not what I needed. What I needed was a process. So I grabbed a policy and everyone has a policy, right? I grabbed a policy and cut and pasted it into the chat, into my request, into my prompt, and asked it then to make a process. So the prompt we used, Aaron will plug that in. So using the policy below, which I just cut and pasted directly into the field, build a step-by-step process for purchasing and recording purchases. And then what's beautiful is saying, start here, start from where they fill out a purchase request, all the way through decision-making. And what that allows you to do is actually build a process, and it kicked out an entire step-by-step process. So I started asking policy. That wasn't really what I needed. I refined it and asked about process and gave it a policy attached to an organization. So it was specific to the needs and the requirements and any sort of compliance within that policy that already exists. So it's in alignment with your policies, and then created a process. How's everybody doing? Everybody following along where we're at so far and how we're using this to sort of define some process activities? Everybody good? I see some head shaking. That's good. I like head shaking. Head shaking are great. So then we took it farther. We had this step-by-step process and then said, okay, Aaron, you want to plug in the next prompt and see
Yeah,
where we
right.
took it?
We wanted to see like how detailed can we get this? So this one says we're gonna say that our this process is gonna involve 5 individuals, the CFO, program director, and program staff. And we gave them names, fictitious names, and then said assign roles and responsibilities within this process.
And if you're plugging these in along as you go, you can see what it's spitting out. It's assigning each staff person to what piece of that process is theirs. So you can do this with you have your own policy, you put your policy and you ask for a process, you get your process, you plug in your team, you take your team, you apply it to the process. And it's a faster way in. It obviously needs your brain, your area of expertise, your experience. What you do allows you to refine, right? It allows you to get in and make it and refine it and make it specific to your organization. But this is a great place to build your skeleton and start adding more and more levels of refinement and details to it. From after adding the staff, we said, okay, well, how do we make this clearer? If we wanted to start moving into creating and publishing a policy or in a process for the team, where do we go next? Aaron, what's the next prompt that we decided to put out there that would help us understand, okay, we're going to need to build this into an actual into the handbook, go over it with the team.
In terms of a process, it's good to have an understanding of who's in charge of what, and aside from just roles and responsibility, what the chain of command is. And so the next prompt that we gave it was to build a dependence tree for an ideal instancy of this process. And so here it is, putting out a pretty good, right, a dependency tree that talks about where the steps go and what the requirements are within each step.
So you're also looking at building a workflow simultaneously. So you went from policy to process to plugging in the specifics of your team to now starting to map a workflow for that team. From there, we said, okay, what parts of this can be automated? and give me a description of what I would need to put in and what outputs could we expect to make this automated. So I built a process. Is there a way to make this process better? Let's see. Is there a place we can automate this? It comes back and tells you the inputs, tells you the outputs. It tells you tools that you might be able to use, areas where you can create greater efficiency and create more automations. So that the AI is helping to support building in now efficiency on top of this process that you've custom tailored to your operations.
Yeah, and then to take it another step further, if you wanted to, you get to a point where you think that you've got a pretty good process, you can give it one of these and say, build a employee manual that for the program staff using this process. And so here now we have a document that new hires or existing people for training can have on hand that talks through the specifics of what it is that you and your AI assistant have worked through to create to make this process.
And from there, you can cut and paste and refine and create your manual directly from there. So that if you can, this was just sort of a chance for us to really go through this process, showing it to you to really get a sense. And this came from absolutely in practice. I said, I need to know a process. We need to actually build a process. Let's do this and see what happens. So you can create the manual. You've already explored and found some ways that you can build in efficiencies and really help support the workflows and operations of your team. Any questions about that before we move to the next piece? Just sort of walking through that process of using the tool. Questions, thoughts?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Sure.
For so all this information you just put in, right? And to create this, if you were to open up a new I don't know, a new window, a new chat, does ChatGPT remember all the information from here in your next one? Like, let's just say you wanted to do another process based off of this, or do you have to submit it every time you open up a new chat, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, very good question. The free version comes with ChatGPT 3.5, and context is specific to the chat. They just came out with this, which is a way that you can make your own bot. So we would create one, and this is like a training facility where on the left-hand side, we're interfacing with an assistant that's helping us to write the personality trait and train the bot with I can upload files, I can give it all of the policies, I can give it all of the it's all sitting on OpenAI's servers, and then on this side is a preview. And while normally you create new ChatGPT instances that are just the generic assistant, you can that's fine. I've trained this one as a workshop assistant that it knows about different workshop methodologies. It knows about user engagement and splitting into groups and all of the different stuff from IDEO. I have my own version of it, one that it's a digital twin common. We had a little bit of a discussion about this before the workshop started, where I'm feeding it all of my unique perspectives on the world, and if I have something that I want to have a second me think on, I can ask it, like, what do you think about this thing? And so now I've got like a second version of me, and I can go in and edit it. So within that page, here is I can add to it as I go, and so every new instance of it will have whatever the latest training is.
And so Erin is much more adept at using this than I am as a late adopter. And I also use the paid version. I've moved beyond the free version, which was great for me for a very long time. But in using it, one of the things I do now when I get a new client, I put in their mission statement, I put in their vision and values, I put in their strategic plan, I put in their staff. Any information I have on my new client, I add to the system. And I'm at a point now while using it that if I reference that client and I'm asking a question about something, I just need some inspiration. If I go to GPT when I'm stuck, when I'm like, I don't know how I want to say this, I don't know how I want to get into this, I can now go in, and if I mention the client, it references back to that information I put in earlier. So I've trained it on my clients, so I don't have to re-enter it every single time. So the more you use it, the more it will start to give you back the information that it is very contextual to what you're doing. So that does happen over time as you're using it. One of the things we wanted to, oh, sure. I see Monica has a question. Yeah.
Hi, yes. So if I created a product like a manual, do I have to cite somewhere that this was co-created with AI? And if I give AI credit, how do I do that?
Oh, interesting.
Solid question. It becomes a question about your values as a brand. You don't have to attribute the source to an AI model. Because it's new, some people can't tell the difference between what has been created by an AI and what hasn't, what's organically, I don't know, created by a human, by a brain. And if under no circumstances should you just copy and paste out of ChatGPT and say, this is the thing that represents me. You can kind of think of it as an assistant that's working for you, not your boss. So if it gives you something, you shouldn't say, yeah, the AI is in charge of deciding every aspect of this content. And so when you're editing it, you're using your creative license to make it your own. But no, you don't need to specifically say this was generated by AI. I do, depending on who it is that I'm sending information to, and commonly when I'm in kickoff meetings with clients, if there is a time constraint and I'll need to rely more heavily on using AI to smooth over communications, I will mention in conversation that we use a large language model for taking notes and translating notes, expanding them into long form text, and we use them also for taking brain dumps and converting them into condensed paragraphs for easy consumption. But in terms of legality, you're probably be better off talking to a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a question in the chat about privacy when you are uploading organizational documents into.
I don't recommend uploading any sensitive data. If you can de-anonymize stuff first, I mean, who can? The content that I shared, and I'll show in here. One of the next example that we're going to go through, exercise we're going to go through, I pulled data out of the results, the data that we got from when you registered. You answered some questions about your job title and what some of your slowdowns are in your org, and so we use that data, but we took out names, we took out the place that you work, things like that. I would.
Yeah, it's a perfect segue because we were going to talk a little bit. There's process, right? We've gone over some process things. I'm sorry, Aaron, you
No, there's an enterprise version of ChatGPT
Mhm.
that we're too small of a organization to be accepted for it. It's one of those things that it's built for, the Deloittes and the I don't know, the bigger companies that actually use enterprise level software that has end-to-end encryption. It's like as secure as your bank software. So if you have need for enterprise level data security and compliance for data storage and use and that sort of thing, then you can get in touch with OpenAI. But as far as the current, in the free version or even in the paid version, they don't encourage you to upload anything that is social security numbers, identifiable information, names, addresses, zip codes. I guess maybe zip codes is okay because it's regional, but things that you would feel bad if it got leaked or if someone had access to it. Don't try to keep it from going in.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are a lot of other AI tools. We're just using this one today. But definitely there are a lot of tools out there. What we're finding is we're actually using GPT more and more because it then gets trained. There are some other tools we do use, but honestly, I don't know if I need them. If we're very specific in what we're trying to do, I might use some of the other tools that are out there. But I'm finding right now that this works really well for us as a starting point and for the size of our company. There's some other process things that we've done that at first it was just mind blowing, right? We were working with a client on really reworking their content to add some user experience. Thinking around their website content. And in doing this, one of the things they award scholarships. And one of the things that we wanted to look at was, where do all the students end up going at the end? And so this is a sort of a process. And on the other end of things, from policy to procedure to we're in the operational piece, right? And we got slowed down by, now we have to find where all of these people end up, where all the students that they award scholarships to end up. And in that process, we got a list, and that list had all of the, half of them listed this city and state with an abbreviation of the state, and half gave us city with the state listed written out. And we said, okay, we asked AI we just gave it the list and said, can you please tell us, write all the states? It actually just for us listed all the states it translated from abbreviation to the states. So we had that and could just plug it in. And we said, let's make sure we alphabetize these. Hey, can you alphabetize this? Threw it in, it alphabetized it. So it made that process of making an edit that probably would have taken a lot longer for us to do manually, a 3-minute fix versus something that would have taken, probably with the number of data points we had, at least 40 minutes to go through and make all of those changes and then resort it. So it expedites things. You can use it to expedite things in your process. We want to move, Aaron touched on it a little bit, into insight gathering. And we're going to start to get a little more hands-on. So is everybody ready? Everybody ready to be in it, practicing? So Aaron, share a little bit about where we landed as we started thinking about insights as we were preparing with Allison. Where do we want to go with this workshop?
Right. So like early on, when we hadn't come to the conclusion, like, yes, absolutely, we're going to do this workshop. It was just a discussion on, is there a there to talk about? And our initial conversations were real frontline staff oriented, and we were really thinking about list cleanup and the tactical work that needs to get done. And we had this opportunity to ask some questions for in the registration, and I've pasted the answers in here. I want to show you one of the cool things here. I pulled I had talked about the bot that I had made, the IDEO version, the IDEO bot, and one of the descriptions I've included in the prompts document, just so this instance that we're working inside of, this chat, is starting from a similar place as my trained IDEO bot workshop assistant. So this says, you're an IDEO certified creative workshop facilitator. Your primary focus is on ensuring that participants in a workshop setting feel actively involved and engaged in the ideation and creative process. This involves guiding decisions, fostering a collaborative environment, and assisting in the generation of refinement of ideas. And so I'm going to go ahead and tell it that this is who you are. And it's like, okay, great. I'm going to make you a workshop. I don't care so much about this in itself, but I'm going to say that, oh, I see that I included a data point number 2. Here, if you see here, this one's a typo. So we're just going to use 3. You're planning a workshop titled AI for beginners using AI in your nonprofit. Upon registering, the participants answered the following questions. I'm going to take this, and the questions they were in a spreadsheet, and I just copied the rows and pasted them in here. They're at the end, and I'm just going to select all of this. I do a thing where I click and then I use my mouse wheel, but you can hold down Shift and press the down arrow and select all of them. And so this is a good example of giving a lot of information at once to ChatGPT. I'll get this off here. And if you hold down Shift and Enter, when it'll drop down to a new line. It might work with just hitting Enter, but do that. And so here now it's saying that this is what it has. Right. Okay. So some common challenges: email management, communication, time management, organizational level. And so one of the things that I asked it was, what are the biggest similarities among our participants? And it said, yeah, look, most of your participants have leadership roles, and they're decision makers and have significant responsibilities within their organization. They're like, whoa, well, we can't do it the way that we were going to do it. We need to change how we approach these examples so that we hit more nails on the head. And so, this was one of those ways of that we use the tool specifically that we're demoing to change the way that we approach the way that we were doing something to improve our behavior.
So in the past, when we've done this level of analysis, I've had to tap into software like NVivo, right? And that's a research software that's $6,000 a year. I can't afford that anymore, right? When I was a student, I could get free access through my school, but I can't do that now. But what that software used to do for me at such a high price point that was slow and cumbersome and not as user-friendly and intuitive, I can now ask a question, give it the data from a spreadsheet, cut and pasted out of a CSV file, and it gives me similar insights. So if you do surveys with your participants, you can start to put those in and really find themes and find similarities. You can start to say, if there's a reporting, you know, you have a whole bunch of program directors who are submitting reports for different geographic locations or different sites, you could put all of their information in and ask some questions. What's happening among all of these sites that's in common? What's different? And start to use it for discernment, to start to use it to get out decision information from your system, just using AI to help look at your data and expedite that. You don't need to hire data scientists. You can all become data scientists and think like a data scientist using AI to really help inform your decision making. So, Erin, you want to close this piece out, or what? I want to, before I get into actually doing an exercise for around insight gathering with everyone, I thought if there's anything Erin wants to kind of button up with, thoughts?
No, I think that's good. I mean, we did a lot of exploration into specific use cases within these organizational roles, and along with challenges being faced, and then cross-referenced it with AI tools that exist and examples of prompts for each level. And you know, we just kept going and going and going and going and going. So it's really one of those things. Now we have this library of data. Thank you so much, everyone, for helping us build out an idea of where needs are in the industry. It's very valuable to us, and we wouldn't have otherwise been able to distill all of that information in such a broad spectrum without the use of ChatGPT.
It's much less spitballing and much more making decisions that are in context. So had we not had that ability to look at the information and contextualize it, we might have brought you a very different workshop that didn't fit what your needs are. So it shaped what we're doing and shaped our decision making. I want everyone to get ready. We're going to type in and we're going to customize this for your organization. So we're going to put prompts in, but what I want you to do is think about your context and how it might translate. So let's start and talk about refining your prompt. We're going to start with a really basic prompt. I want you to put in, what are ways I can evaluate my nonprofit program? That's a question we have. How do I evaluate this? I'm an evaluation fanatic. I love data. I love evaluation, right? So let's start there. What are ways I can evaluate my nonprofit program? Very broad, very generic, very general, right? There are all of these different ways. It kind of hits on some of the best practices. It gives you some basic information. Everybody see some of the basics? We all should get some pretty similar answers by entering that in. What I want you to do now is make it specific. So pick a program. If it's fictional, if you don't have a program yourself, if you have a client with a program, if you serve people who have programs, pick a program, all right? And the prompt is, Erin will put what up there. We put in an example of a summer camp for urban youth, right? So what are ways I can evaluate my nonprofit program of, what's your program? Pick a program. Pick your program. And what you might do is, if you have program text, you can plug that in when you're playing on your own. We're going to start from the basics. So just name the program. So we put in summer camp for urban youth. What are some other programs folks are throwing in? Anyone want to throw what program they're throwing in? Anyone want to share what program they're going to talk about when they're exploring? You don't have to.
I'm going to talk about my apprenticeship program.
Great. Great. So you've entered in, what are ways I can evaluate my apprenticeship program, and see what happens. All right. So this is again saying, all right, still tapping into best practices, but a little more context. It's giving you a little bit more info. Oh, all right. So it's camp. We could do a pre and post assessment. We've got some behavioral skills assessment. What might that mean? How could I apply that in a camp context? So it's starting to get into some more specifics to your specific program. The next level, there are many levels in between here. I'm making a big jump here. Erin's going to put in where we took it next. This was a high level of specificity. So as you're thinking, I want you to put a high level of specificity. So we wrote, okay, we are not data scientists. We're a small staff. Here's what I need to do. And here's what we need to measure. We want to measure how they are changed in their experience. And here are some of the things that are included in the summer program experience. There are learning initiatives like mitigating summer learning loss through reading programs. There's some math. There's practical application of math and science in a camp environment, right? So we're putting it in there. And I said, now give me a list of metrics that we can apply to the program. So I want you to spend a few minutes thinking. You can read the prompt we had. And Erin, can you put it in the chat too, in case someone wants to go back quickly and look at it, since ours is spitting out information right now. But craft a prompt about the specific program that you picked that takes it to the next level information about what this program is. Spend a minute doing that. And you can see with what spit out for us is it gave some very specific metrics that we could include, that we could look at and say, as we're working on this program, how do we incorporate this metric into the work that we're doing so that it's part of our everyday process, that we're constantly thinking about measurement and evaluation, not as a separate thing, but just as a thing we do, right? And if you don't know how to do evaluation, this starts to lay the foundation of what's possible, right? You can start to see the possibilities. How's everybody doing? Everybody put their prompt in? Anyone want to share where they're at so far with any metrics that have come up? Tamisha, what was one of the metrics that came up for your program?
I haven't actually plugged it in yet.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
We'll give another minute. Give everybody a second to enter in a description. Anyone have anything come up they want to share, or do you need more? If you can say, I just need focus time. Stop talking, Allison. I need focus time. Erin says that to me a lot. So.
Oh, come on, there you go.
Hi, Allison. This is Monica again. So with what's generating here, is it, can I save it somewhere so I can share with my business partner?
Yeah, I always cut and paste into a Word doc and then save it. So
So
I just copy. Yep, I select, I'll scroll over
Okay.
and copy, just cut and paste, and then save
Okay.
it. Yeah.
All right.
Erin, is there another way to do that as well? Can you import,
Yes.
export?
There's a little button in the top right corner that has a little
The
like a
clip.
skateboard shape with a little up arrow, and it'll create a link to this chat. You can click on this green button that says copy link, and I don't think that you need a chat account. This is an incognito window. If you, it's a different. This would be if someone opened it up on their own computer. And so here is the contents of this chat saved in a. Anyone who has this link can view it.
Yeah, great way to share with your team.
Yeah, I see the little clipboard. I don't think that's what you're talking about, right?
So this little button up here in the top corner,
Top right.
top right. You see it?
Oh, okay. Yes, now I see it. Thank you.
It's this one.
Okay. Thank you.
So as we were working on this, I said, all right, so I've got some metrics. I'm thinking generatively here. How do I bring this to strategy sessions with my program team? How do I bring this to my board as we're strategic planning? How do I bring this to a consultant that I'm working with to really start to look at what we're doing and measure it, to understand how we make, what decisions do we need to make sure we're having the biggest possible impact that we can have? And so the next question we asked was, what are questions that we should be asking our organization? What are those internal questions we should be asking ourselves? They might not always be correct when you enter them, but it's a place to start thinking beyond what you're thinking, right? Something may come up that you didn't even think about. You're like, oh, something may come up that you just delete and say, absolutely not. That's not even in alignment. But there also may be, more often than not, I have found, really great considerations to put on the table to start thinking about your programs, not just in their delivery and in their bottom line, but really starting to ask questions about the work that you're doing. It's a really exciting thing to get into with your team, to start talking alignment with your values and mission, to start really thinking about, not only are we measuring, counting beans, you're counting heads, right? You're looking at bottom line, but to really start to ask those generative questions that allow you foresight. So you can use GPT for foresight. Those were internal questions. Has everybody put in some internal questions for their own? Everybody along for the ride? Give me a yes, a thumbs up if you're along for the ride. You've asked, what are the questions I should be asking? And yep, got some great thumbs up. I see some thumbs up. So the next question I said was, all right, I saw that there was some surveying. I thought, I'm all about inclusivity. I want to make sure that everything we do is collaboratively built, collaboratively designed. What are the questions I need to be asking my kids, my participants, about their experience? So we put in a prompt very specifically saying, what do we need to ask these? What should we be asking the kids? And we got an answer. The answer that we got gave us language that was very much written for an adult audience. And my audience is not at that reading level. My audience was not in alignment. That wasn't in context with my audience. They were great questions, but the way that they were worded just didn't fit. So we came back and said, hey, let's look at what do these translate at a third grade level, so that we know as we're talking to the kids, we're not asking such abstract questions. We can actually have a dialogue with our audience in a way that's very appropriate for them. So we asked it, let's give this and translate it. And you can compare, what does it look like from one version to the next? And then I said, okay, I've got a lot of Spanish speaking students in my program. Can you translate this to Spanish for me? Bam. There it is in Spanish, but it's in Spanish at the third grade version, not the adult version, to make sure that even my translation is written in the right tone and the right language, so that it can be a dialogue with your participants. And then we took it one last question and said, what are ways to obtain meaningful information that can help us make choices, right? That can help us look at the future of the program, and how do we use this to leverage future support, right? So we've talked a little bit about some metrics. We have some metrics. We have some official questions we could be asking to start to explore internally and externally. But now let's just ask one more question as we're in an exploration phase. This could have been months later, right, that I want to ask this question, but start there and say, hey, what could be really meaningful that we need to be exploring around this program? And it may echo much of the stuff that you've already seen in your earlier prompts. There may be something new. There may be something that just pops out at you. It's just another way to dig deeper, to start thinking about your program strategically, to start thinking very generatively, so that you're constantly in that evaluation mode and you're constantly thinking about the impact of what you're doing. So the insights that you can gather from this are huge. How's everybody doing? Anybody want to share a little bit about their experience? I just want to, anybody want to share a little about their program, what they might have come up with, any metrics that you went, bam, I'm absolutely going to use that moving forward. And any questions too, questions, thoughts, observations, those are welcome as well.
I thought this was going to be a lot crazier and hectic than I expected, but I jumped in and started playing with it a little early, and I'm like, this is really good stuff here. So I think it's just a matter of, for me, it's a matter of just really playing with it some more. And then once you get in, you find yourself in the deep end pretty quick.
Other thoughts? Anything come up about any of your programs that you entered in that you just went, what? What?
Allison, hey, this is Allie from United
Hi,
Way.
Allie.
Good to see you. Hey,
too.
following my friend Steve. I see in the chat here in the Zoom chat, folks asking specific questions about their organization, and I'm just curious about that. That level of the examples here are very generic, right? It's, show me a job description, show me a process. But the questions of, if I were at United Way, asking a specific question with United Way of Greater New Haven in that, advise, not advise, ways to do, ways not to do.
Absolutely. Again, what I do when I train it, so if I'm working with a client, I first start with their mission, vision, values statement, and I plug that in.
That's right.
I am a consultant working with this organization. I give them that information. Our core values are this. Our primary goal is this. Here's the impact we want to have in the world. Bam, right? Anything I can start to fuel, make it specific. Obviously, I want to make sure that I'm protecting privacy on participants and that sort of information. But it's really fantastic for building that thought process where I can start to ask more and more questions. I can get abstract. I can ask for, can you give me a 1-sentence summary that is in alignment with this particular value? Can you talk about this point in the strategic plan? How does this program achieve that one thing? And now it's echoing back. And so, yeah, anytime you can make it specific to what you're doing without risking any sort of
personal information,
privacy, do it. Absolutely do it. Again, we are speaking very broadly because we have 80 people, lots of different focus areas. But there is definitely some of the things that we've been able to do as we've explored the translation piece, just finding, if I'm stuck, I'll be writing like, I'm so stuck. I have no idea how I want to move into a conversation with a group, or there's a weird dynamic among my group. I've even asked it. I have this type of 3 personalities that are meeting in this meeting. This is our objective by the end of that meeting. Can you help me create some language that I can come into this meeting that will not have us hitting roadblocks, that will keep us collaborating? It's a great tool for brainstorming. Use it that way and train it. Did we miss any really critical questions here? Let's see. Erin, anything you want to add? I'm yammering on.
No, I think we're doing great.
Okay, great. Okay.
People love us.
Go on. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Hi. How are you, Allison?
I am well. How are the new kitties? She's got kittens, everybody. Kittens.
Oh, that's right. You follow me on Facebook. Yeah, I foster kittens, and I just I've had a new crew of 6 for the last week, and I just determined their names today, and because their mother is Olive, so I've named them all Green Foods. and they're adorable.
Great.
But yes, that's not what I came here to talk about, but everyone always wants to know about the kittens, so feel free to reach out to me, and it's made me somewhat famous. Laura, the theater loving kitten foster. So anyway, I've had a theater company that I founded 4 years ago, and we've been finding our identity slowly but surely as new people have joined us, brought their talents to the table. And we're sort of in this sort of organic exploration of how best we can serve the community, still be true to our creative, passions and all that stuff. So finding a mission statement that works for all the things that we want to do, including mentorship. Like we want to, we feel like it's important to hire professionals in the area, musicians, technicians, and other creatives, and pay them, right? But then we pair them with up and coming people in their field so that they can work alongside them, and then also pay them so they have a paid job. So that's part of our mission. It's also part of our mission that we want to become a pay what you can theater, so that all families, regardless of their socioeconomic status, can afford to see theater together. So all of these things to try to synthesize them into a mission statement. is a challenge. So took a little stab at it just now, and I don't know if you want me to share what I came up with.
Please do. Yeah,
Well,
share
not
it.
what I came up with, what my AI friend came up with.
Your AI version of you came up with. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, let's pull her up. Okay, so should I say what I put in first so that you can see where it took us?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Fuse Theater of Connecticut is focused on generating a sincere desire and passion in our community to bring theater arts forward as an essential aspect of a healthy society. We believe in mentorship. We connect industry professionals with up-and-coming youth artists, technicians, and musicians to give them paid work experience for resume and career building. We believe in supporting the work of local theater makers, musicians, and technicians by offering them paid work. We exist in a space that is somewhere between professional theater and community theater and are looking for a better term to explain that, as well as a stronger mission statement than igniting a passion for theater and youth and adults in Connecticut, which was our original mission statement 4 years ago. So what it came out with, mission statement, it's a little long, so I'm going to try to condense it later, but empowering the future of theater, Fuse Theater of Connecticut is dedicated to cultivating a vibrant and sustainable arts community by igniting a sincere passion for theater in individuals of all ages. Through mentorship, we bridge the gap between emerging talent and industry professionals, providing paid work experience that foster career development. We actively support local theater makers, musicians, and technicians, creating a dynamic space that transcends the boundaries between professional and community theater. Our mission is to inspire, connect, and elevate the theater art as an essential and enriching facet of a healthy society.
What does everybody think? Give us a thumbs up if you think that is something to work with. Is it worth working with? Give her a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so good. I mean,
right?
are we done? No, but like it's so much better than what I could have come up with. And then it wrote, and my question about living in the space between community and professional, it said, consider using the term community-centric professional theater to convey your position between professional theater and community theater. Right. This term emphasizes your commitment to community engagement while maintaining a professional standard.
Right. And that's sort of, thank you so much for sharing that, because it actually feeds right beautifully into one of the questions in the chat about how do you use it for grant proposals? When you're stuck with, how do I say this? I have so many words and I'm stuck in all the words trying to say it. Ask GPT to help you. One of the ways I also, thank you so much for sharing that. One of the things I also use it for in grant world is supplemental, right? There is nothing worse than chasing down people to get their bios. Okay, go to LinkedIn and grab their about and grab their history, their work history, and plug it in and say, can you please write me a bio on this person? And it needs to be 400 characters. Bam, there's your bio. So think about not just for this practice of writing, but also think about it in terms of, how do I use it to execute on things that are always bottlenecked? Finding people and tracking down the information you need is difficult. It exists. It's on LinkedIn, but it's not in the format you need it. Grab it, ask GPT to help you put it in the format you need it to help expedite those things that could be done quicker. You can send it off later and say, hey, do you approve of this? Great, cool. And now you have it for your library. I want to get into, we don't have a lot of time. I'm just trying to be aware of time, and then we can stay a little longer for questions if y'all can stay. Aaron's from Texas. I apologize as a New Englander for always using y'all, but it's his fault. The last category of our functions that I want to talk about with y'all is communication and engagement. We're going to blow through this, but I want you to also practice. So grab your GPT screen. One of the things that we did for a campaign that was so excited. So let's change your role in your chat. Aaron, you want to share what role we're in now as a communications expert? So.
Yeah, hold on. So I'm sharing my screen again.
Yeah. And let's go in and add that prompts for communication and engagement. So let's set the stage. Who are you now? What role are you in your organization's GPT? I am now the communications person, which many of you may be the communications person, the development person, the CEO, the marketing director. I mean, you may be all of those in your one person shop, right? So here you are changing roles. Put on your new mask, get ready, do a little warm up, deep breath. Here's your new role. All right, so you said I'm now a communications expert and I have a campaign coming up. Let's go with Giving Tuesday, right? It's around the corner, it's happening, it's coming. I need to craft an email to introduce a Giving Tuesday campaign that is centered around our organization's core value of wellness and well-being. Give me an email. Give me an email that I can send out for this campaign for Giving Tuesday that focuses on our core value of wellness and well-being. It created an email. Awesome. You can ask it to make it shorter. You can ask it to make it longer. You can ask it to make it less formal. You can ask it to do language written at a 3rd grade level. You can ask it to write it in Spanish. You can ask it to translate it. You can make it less formal, more formal, add some humor. You can play with that. Now, okay, I've got an email. Great. Did everybody put in an email? Ask it to make an email around your campaign and see what it produces for you. Because by the time you leave today, you're going to have your Giving Tuesday campaign started. You're welcome. So ask about your email, get your email. Now, okay, that's great. I want to talk a little more about our impact, and I want to give the donor ownership over that impact. Can you weave into the email the impact of our organization and how the donor makes that possible? This is going to give you donor-centered language. So now, okay, I've altered my email so that it's much more donor-centered, a little more impactful in its delivery to really tap into shared purpose with your donors and with your constituents. Awesome. You can continue to refine that, continue to edit it, give it more information, keep working with that. Everybody in there? Or I know I'm going through this fast because I want to make sure we have time for more questions as well. So now, okay, I've got an email. Cool. Oh man, I also need to do a social media campaign. Okay, all right, cool. Translate this email into social media posts we use Twitter, we use Facebook, we use Instagram. Translate this for me into those. Bam, you've got your posts. Now just add an image. You've started your campaign, you're ready to go. You may need to refine them. You may need to fine tune the language. You may need to customize it, but you can take one format and ask it to translate to other formats that are appropriate for those channels. You can expedite your process of creating, but also make it more engaging, make it more inviting for your constituents so it speaks again to that shared purpose between you and your constituents. The next thing that you can do as well that I had a ball with last week with a client, we had some fun playing together in GPT, was, okay, I need a month-long campaign. Can you give me 5 emails that build on each other? First one needs to focus on our value of well-being. Our next one needs to focus on our value of equity. Our next one needs to focus on our value of, name a value, right? And so we then asked it to create a series, and it created a series of email. Once we decided on that first one that we really liked, it then built really beautiful, gorgeous, sort of a beautiful arc in the storyline of your campaign and your communication. And we asked it to do the same thing for each of those emails to give us the social media posts. So did anyone put it in, try and get an email? Anyone want to share what it came up with or their posts or any thoughts about that process as far as using this to expedite and to really help you refine your communications and engagement strategies? Thoughts? That was fast. I know. I blew through that really fast.
Well, this is why we included the prompts as a document, because now you can just pop them in whenever you want. We made it to the end, and you can say, you know what, actually that stuff was pretty cool, and maybe I'll jump in there, give it a go.
Anyone want to share anything? Questions? So we've covered different process areas. We covered process, different functional areas. We covered process. We covered insight gathering. We covered communications and engagement. What's everybody thinking? How's everybody feeling right now? You came in, most of our participants, given our insights that we dug into, said, this is not where I live. I do not live in AI. How are you feeling now? Sheila says thumbs up. I get a thumb up.
Yeah,
And
I'll go. This is Alexis. Hi, Alison. How are
hi,
you?
Alexis. So
How you
good to see
doing? You too. Yeah, no, I really appreciate this. I mean, I'm from a program that provides legal services to individuals, and there's a lot of trepidation around using this in the legal community. And I just appreciate the opportunity to think about this as a way to assess your program and your operations, and the social media aspect. Some of the hashtags that they popped out was like right on the money in terms of what we use in the legal aid community. So I really appreciate this. So thank you both.
Great. Oh, good. I'm glad. Yay. Other thoughts, other questions, other ideas?
Robert has his hand raised. Go ahead.
My foray into AI occurred over a breakfast at a diner with a friend who said, "Oh, you gotta get this, it's free." So I ran and got it. This past summer, and I've been using it and am totally amazed. But I see that you can get a fee for a service AI. And as you're presenting, I have my version up that I paid on Google, like a one-time fee. So it's a little confusing about these different levels of AI. Is there any benefit to paying? You get what you pay for these days.
Aaron, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, in terms of ChatGPT is a transformer model, just GPT standing for generative pre-trained transformer. The pre-trained bit is that you're paying for the large language model itself, the neural network, the magic behind the scenes of what it knows about the human language. And right now the large language model ecosystem is blowing up. There's a lot of different large language models and ways that you can interact with them. There are ones that can run on your own computer. There's some that are decentralized, and the network of all people that are connected to it contribute some amount of their computer's processing ability to help the system as a whole generate results for free. And then there's other ones that you can load as a service. You can rent video cards that are specifically on servers to be used for large language models.
Wow.
And so what you get when you are helping OpenAI by paying for a model is that you get the new stuff. You get all the early features. This ability to create your own GPT. This came out on Wednesday, last Wednesday. Like, it's literally that new, like literally a week old, and you can't get it unless you have the advanced version, unless you're paying for a paid account on ChatGPT. Now the free what you get so they just launched this new bit, and everything that used to be the new awesome stuff is now the last week's generation. It's like, you have generations of phones. The span of time that one generation of AI technology is like now a week. Like, this is, this month's version of the newest AI stuff will be available next month to unpaid users. So yeah, I mean it's really kind of up to you. I think that OpenAI and ChatGPT are very approachable. My background's in user experience design, and a lot of how they approach some of the more complicated aspects that the AI industry, multi-agent chat systems, GPTs, are how they will ultimately, well, I mean, what I believe, me and my colleagues believe will happen. Like, let's say you know everything there is to know about, I don't know, theater. everything that you need to know about Shakespeare, everything that you could possibly know about that people who love Shakespeare. You could build a GPT that is a knowledge base that then you can license access to use its knowledge in whatever activity you need it to participate in order to generate ideas, or to be a sounding board if you were going to make a campaign and you wanted it to make sure that it felt like it belonged in a particular world. Then you could license the Shakespeare GPT to build it. And so the people that are that are accumulating that knowledge, that are training that GPT, are the ones that are going to benefit from having all of that knowledge centralized in a way that other people can access it. And so we haven't gotten quite exactly to that point, but I've made my Aaron GPT public, and the idea will be that my knowledge will be accessible to everyone. I know that's a little high and mighty of me, but it's new. Like, I might as well tell it everything that I've done some really interesting projects, and I've had
it's a really great way to contribute the learning of your organization to your industry, to be able to create your own GPT and contribute what you're learning and discovering and achieving, to be able to make that shareable is pretty sexy, right? And it is, and that's something we should all be thinking about when we're looking at our program theories. How are we contributing to our field? That should be a question we're asking ourselves in one of our outputs and one of our objectives in what we're trying to do. How are we contributing to the field? And you can start to share it in ways like that. So I like tapping into Aaron's brain. I like knowing his knowledge, and so it's a great way to start sharing and really being a part of big change, right? Yeah. Other thoughts, other questions? I know a lot of people are jumping off because we've hit our time. We want to be respectful of time. It's exactly 1:30. Bam! We did it. We made it through all of it. But any other observations? Anyone want to share anything that came out of it? We can stick around for a few more if you'd like.
Thank you for putting us on as a fundraiser. It's both mind-blowing and also a little scary because it's writing things that I would normally write. So it feels a little scary in that sense, but it's also amazing that I have something that I can edit and then personalize. I think that's something that we have to really remember of, that we can't just take it for what they're writing. But I mean, to take an email and then create all of your social posts from it, so the time that it can that it can save.
Right.
I've really been putting off getting into ChatGPT because I have, like, initially that was my thoughts, where like I want this to be authentic. I want our messaging to be, but then to just see how useful it could be, as long as we're mindful of adding the authenticity back in.
Yeah,
it's just, I would have like worked on 3 different projects while you were teaching this. This is great. Thank you for sharing.
Along those lines, I was thinking about how the food industry used automation to really improve, well, maybe not improve, depending on your frame of reference, to make it easier, the cost to market and ability to mass produce things at a higher rate. And so there is this idea that this is an area where you are adding you're making it processed. You can kind of think of like processed food. What part of your organizational mission isn't going to be jeopardized by introducing a bag of Doritos in place of a healthy snack? So there is an amount that needs to be taken into consideration, where what aspects of this, like, I'm not for taking people's jobs away, but I am at helping people be their most efficient that they can be in the context of the organization.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for your courage to come out and explore, get more comfortable. Did we achieve our objective? Does everybody feel a little more comfortable exploring? Good.
So great. So many people ready to play in the playground. So please feel free to send any feedback or other questions that you have as you do play and explore. We want to walk alongside you on that journey. We can help. I know Erin and Allison are willing to troubleshoot or help as they can. And we'll keep talking about a part 2 because there's so much more to still learn and further to go. But thank you so much for spending time with us, and a huge thank you to Allison and to Erin for sharing your knowledge and making this feel so accessible and not intimidating and fun. So we had some fun today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day, everyone.